All right, welcome to the Culture and Learning Center Q&A with Dina Thomas. I'm Larry Greenwald. Dina Thomas needs no introduction for many of us. She is the daughter of our own Sherry and Jeff Kirschenbaum. She is here today to talk about her role as the solo performer of the 2.5-minute ride by Lisa Crone and produced by the Studio Theater of Washington, D.C. Although there are many plot lines throughout the performance, the play primarily examines the author's attempt to understand her nearly blind 74-year-old father, who was able to escape Nazi Germany in 1937 at the age of 15. The play follows her account of a family visit to an amusement park. Her father's passion is roller coaster rides, and they travel to this particular park on a regular basis. On a parallel storyline, she recounts her visit with her father to Auschwitz-Birkenau, where her father's parents were murdered. Dina's credits include numerous off-Broadway performances.
Kirschenbaum's daughter, Dina.
In addition to performances with the Shakespeare Theater Company, the Barrington Stage, and the Unicorn Theater.
People have to mute, otherwise we're not hearing you. People coming on have to. Larry's muted now.
Larry, you're on mute.
Okay, can you hear me now? Okay, got it. Thank you. Dina's credits include numerous off-Broadway performances, in addition to performances with the Shakespeare Theater Company, the Barrington Stage, and the Unicorn Theater. Dina will briefly discuss the play and her role, and then we'll open up the questions. If you have a question, please write STACK in the chat box, or just raise your hand and I'll recognize you. For those who have not seen the 2.5-minute ride, Dina gives an extraordinary performance that is worthy of any Broadway stage.
Oh, thanks.
It is true.
Oh.
And it is my great pleasure to introduce Dina Thomas.
Well, that's me. Thanks for coming. Yeah, if you have not yet seen the show, I'll just talk a tiny bit about how I got involved, and then any and all questions. I know there are some questions about filming and things like that, but I was called when we first moved to DC in October of 2018. I emailed Studio Theater because I had been a longtime fan of them, and basically said, hi, I'm moving to town and you might have seen me in 2015 at the Shakespeare Theater. Would you hire me? Maybe. And they wrote me back and said, oh, we actually have a show that we think you could be really right for. Could you audition via tape? And they ended up casting me. And so I did a show. I started rehearsals 9 days after we moved on a play called Cry It Out, which was about new moms. And I was pregnant with Orly at the time. So it was pretty awesome. And I made some wonderful new mom friends. So I worked with my director, Joni Schultz. And so fast forward to late 2020, I had gotten into real estate, as I'm sure my parents have told many of you. And I was leaving a showing and I get a call from Joni who says, I don't know if you're at all interested, but Studio Theater is doing a digital season. There's a one-woman show and I think you should read it, and I'm directing it and I would like you to do it. And I've talked to the artistic director and everyone's agreed. So if you want to do it, you should do it. And so I read it that night and felt an immediate connection to it, just with the fact that she had been to Auschwitz. I had been to Auschwitz on March of the Living when I was younger. And obviously, listen, the play could have been total poo. and I would have done this play. I was so ready to act again with the pandemic. I was like, listen, this could be like C Spot Run, and I would do this play. So I called them back and I said, yes, let's do it. And then we began a 3-month process of figuring out how we were going to rehearse this with the pandemic, how we were going to tape this. And I dedicated myself to learning a page of text a day of the script, a page a day, because I knew it was going to be daunting. And if I didn't show up off book, I would be in a lot of trouble because we were only going to have 3 weeks, including filming, to do the entire thing. And so that's what we did. And so I think the play is a really beautiful story about family and love and finding your way through things as you grow older. And obviously it's meant for an audience, and it's also meant, and it's autobiographical. So it was how to make an autobiographical story and a story that's meant to have people sitting in the seats work when it's not your story and when there's nobody there to talk to. So that was the process of the production. And then COVID proceeded. We tested every other day. There were only about 5 of us in the room at any given time, and we were all on opposite ends of the theater. We were masked the whole time. I would only unmask if I was rehearsing a section, except for filming day when we had to do a lot of, taping. And that was pretty much it. And then we put it out in the world. And it's not like a regular show when you have previews or you can talk to the audience after, or, you literally put it out in the world and you're like, I hope people like it. I have no idea. Nobody's ever going to tell me. So you kind of have to let go and just hope that it's received well. And, not just by your parents who will love it because you're talking for 70 minutes. But so that was the process of, sort of how I got involved. Okay. And I can answer anything specifically, almost anything.
One question that I had, there was this point in the performance where you were at the crematorium at Birkenau, and you seemed to somehow come to terms with, or at least try to get some kind of understanding of what really happened, either on a personal level with your father and his parents, your grandparents, or on a more broader level of what the Holocaust means. And it seems that whatever it is that you are considering is indescribable or it's inexpressible. And I was thinking, at that moment in the performance, what are you thinking? And how did you prepare for it?
Well, the biggest thing that I have found, I think, with acting in general is if you make emotional appointments for yourself, like, oh, at this point, this part's really heavy and I need to make sure I go there. I find you never really go there. You kind of just give a surface level. And so by that point in it, I just think the character, Lisa and also myself, it's, I think there are these rare moments in our lives that I think everyone can understand when your parents become human and not like your parents. And you also, when your parents see you as human, sometimes you're always their child, but like you're also a person. And I think there's this understanding in that moment of like, the weight of what her father has carried her. And I used to tell mom and dad I told mom and dad the other night that I have this unhealthy thing where I go into a restaurant and if I see like a very, very, very old person, very old, I write a whole story about why they're in their restaurant by themselves. They could have perfectly chosen to be there, but I will write a long story about why they're there. And sometimes I have to leave because I get so upset about the story that I've written in my head. And it's ridiculous. And it's happened to me forever. And in that moment of my dad takes his 2:00 pill inside the gas chambers, here's this old man who is just taking his pill. And he's almost less phased in a way being there than I am. The weight of it is all too much. His age and the life he's carried and the place that we're in. So I just kept thinking about these moments of like, when your parents just become people and you understand them a little more, and that can be very shocking and painful and beautiful, but heavy, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, it was a beautiful moment in the performance, and
Thank
I thought
you.
you did a great job.
I was also tired, so that helps you be, because at that point in the day we were like hour 8, and I was like, I'm so tired. So that helps too.
Anybody else have a question?
Yeah, I do. Well, maybe a comment, but I was amazed at how the dialogue was so much, and you kind of answered that you had to practice this, every day, a big section or whatever, because the way you just kept talking and going, I really felt like you were really that person. It was just, a lot to, and it flowed so well. It's not like you got hung up or anything. So,
well, we cut, there are different takes in there. So don't let that fool you. I definitely did have a few times where they said, hold, and I would say, oh gosh. And they were like, yeah, you need to just, woo, you've really kind of gone off the, but yeah, it is, it's a lot.
And it was really well done. And I also liked your accent.
Thanks.
I thought that was sounded pretty authentic to me.
I had a wonderful dialect coach who's also a friend of mine that I did other productions with. And we worked a lot together on just trying to make the German sound pretty authentic. And then with Elizabeth, the Dutch sister, she didn't really need to sound super Dutch. We could just have a little bit of fun with her and kind of use that. But I'm learning about memorizing lines. It is so much harder to memorize contemporary, like her play sounds like just someone talking to you, like really just like how we talk. But that's so hard to memorize when someone says and well, and you go, I can't memorize every and so there were definitely some parts where I said to my director, like, this is just going to be paraphrased because I'm going to do the best I can. I'm going to hit the gold, but I don't know if she says and, of course, well, but thank you. That means a lot because it was a lot of work on the words.
I'm sure it was, and thank you for the show.
Oh, thanks for watching.
I'm glad I did.
Dina, David has a question, so I'm opening up the floor to David.
So, Dina?
Yeah.
No, there were cuts, as you said. How long did it take you to shoot it?
So when I first signed on, I thought we were going to get 3 days to shoot so that we could really kind of find what we want. But COVID procedures and the way that the timing ended up working out, we had 1 day. So we shot from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. We took a dinner break, but yeah, so we had initially thought we were going to run the whole play 3 times in a row. And then after working on it, we realized what could probably go wrong is what if I screwed up on page 10 and I had to go all the way to page 39? The likelihood is I would still be thinking about the screw up on page 10 all the way through. And so now we broke it into 4 different chunks, 4 different acts, so to speak. And we shot those acts 2 or 3 times in a row. And then we would move on to the next act and shoot that 2 or 3 times in a row. The only thing we did not shoot on the actual day that we shot the night before was the part where I am the father talking to the Gestapo agent. That we shot the night before shooting day. But other than that, we ran everything to her because they were like 15, 20-minute chunks. So we would run them 3 times in a row if we got it, and then move on to the next chunk. So that if I messed up, it wasn't like, we have to go all the way back to square one.
Yeah.
Dina, I have a question that's more about the director, but
Yeah, sure.
Since the director's not here.
I know, I tried to get her to be.
Well, first, you were absolutely amazing. And I watched with my parents because I saw them this weekend. And
Aww.
They thought you were amazing.
Thank you.
But we all had the same reaction to the camera.
Mhm.
And you're showing photos, and we all had the same reaction that the blurriness of that was totally distracting.
Okay.
And we were wondering, do you have any idea why? Is that part of the original play?
Yes.
Is that something the director decided? Do you know why? Because all of us were getting, it's like, why are they doing that?
Yeah, it is actually written into the play. So in a way, so she writes it that each of the slides is a block of color, like purple, blue, green, whatever. How our lighting designer interpreted that for herself was she wanted, so basically the reasoning behind that, I should say, from the playwright and performer is when she's talking about her grandparents or her father or her, girlfriend or all these people, she wants the audience to be able to envision the people in their lives. She didn't want a picture of her people in your head, was her reasoning behind the colors. How our lighting designer interpreted that was she wanted to give these hints of images so that the audience would go, am I supposed to see something? Am I not? What am I seeing? And then we have that beautiful moment in the end where Lisa finally says, oh my gosh, I think I know what I'm doing here. I'm putting my hand on my father's life. And then the slide comes into focus. That then life is coming a little bit more together. So I think there's supposed to be a lot of questions of are we just seeing it through Lisa's eyes and are they blurry, or are they am I seeing them clearly but they're blurry she wanted it to be very ambiguous. I agree with you that it's a little difficult. I was a little not frustrated is the wrong word, but I was wondering how that would play on film. But in talking to the playwright, she was very, very clear that she did not want slides that we could see of any kind. I know. It's one of those things where it's like, it's sort of, it just what it was.
Maybe it works better on live stage than on film.
Possibly, yeah, definitely, possibly. But I knew that was going to be, I said to my director, like, this is going to be a question. And yes, Leslie Kalis, the play I learned with rhyming was so much easier. Also, because if you screw up a rhyme, you just put in another rhyme. No one's going to know. Here, you're going off in La La Land. Someone's like, I don't know what she's talking about anymore. But yes, Debbie, I agree. It's confusing. It's confusing to say the least, for sure.
I actually thought that was very clever to not have the focus on the pictures, because it made you really focus in and concentrate on your story.
Yeah, and I think that's what her thing was. Like the playwright said, if I put up a picture of my dad, the whole play, when I'm talking about my dad, you're going to have a visual of my dad. But that's not who you should be seeing. See memories of your dad. See memories of a time that you did a silly family dinner, So I think that was she didn't want that to take away from the words.
Yeah, I thought that was very creative. Initially, my reaction was, wait a minute, just like you said, I thought, is this out of focus? Is something wrong there?
Right. Something wrong with the video.
Yeah, after maybe 2 slides, I knew what was happening.
And I see Leslie Gleaner, more about the experience. Yes, So Leslie asked in the chat, can you talk more about the experience of performing for an empty theater? Did others in the room react? No one in the room reacted because they didn't want, the only people that were in the room were the video crew. Everyone else, my director, the director of photography, was outside the theater in what they called Video Village, and they would only come in when we cut. So the film crew did not react because they did not want us to feel like there was any audience in there. So it was pretty abysmal to make jokes to an empty theater and going like, oh, geez, I hope someone's going to laugh in their living room because this is the one joke she gets to laugh at herself at in the script is the joke when she says Orestes, I guess they'd be Greek. And in the script, it says she chuckles at her bad joke, which I was like, thank you so much. because the rest of it is just like boom, silence. And I listened to an audio version of her play that someone had taped, and her audience is cracking up left and right, and she's bouncing things off them. And I just thought, just gonna have to, clench and pray and hope that people will laugh. So no, I could not play anything for a reaction. Nobody was there to react. It was completely pitch black and a camera, 2 cameras.
So I see we have another question from Donna Burkett. Were you a theater major in school and where?
So mom and dad will tell you. Dad and I started on the stage together at the JCC when I was, 7, Dad, maybe? Doing Music Man. And then I think they knew pretty early that they were in trouble because, 7, Mom?
No, actually, you auditioned for your first show at 7. They weren't supposed to let 7-year-olds, but because I worked there and you were a JCC kid, they did. You got up there and basically couldn't open your mouth.
I know, I remember, I froze.
You totally froze.
I
You
remember.
were 10. You were 10 when you did Music Man.
Okay, so I had aged 3 years, really matured, and was ready. But yeah, and so then I really did it all throughout. I mean, did a lot of I did the JCC forever, throughout, growing up and then in high school, and then also went to school at Binghamton University, and majored in theater, and then went to University of Missouri, Kansas City, and got my master's of fine arts in acting, and then came back to New York for a while, and then moved to DC. So it's kind of always been acting forever.
Okay, there's another question in the box from Maureen Tillman, asking, please explain how and why we saw you in 2 different images.
Okay, so a big thing that my director wanted was to have, because we're setting this story up that my character is filming this video, she's been working on this tape for her father, and we don't know who will see it. We want you to have the feeling that she's just I've rented this theater, I'm talking to the camera, maybe, so we don't know if my father will even ever see this video. It's just me working it out. So she wanted to have 2 different angles, and her logic was, if there's no one in the theater with you, in theory, if you turn on one camera, you haven't turned it off yet, so we're going to leave it on. That's why you'll see some images of me in one camera and just a blank stage, because her logic was, let's just follow the logic of the fact that you're in this theater alone. So what that turned into a lot of the time was, if I had turned one camera on and then turned another camera on and hadn't turned any one of them off, granted, I wasn't really controlling these things, but then we had these dual images, which she thought, A, could just be interesting from a visual perspective of not staring at me from one angle for 70 minutes. And B, because I'm this performer just figuring out what this videotape would be like, when I go back to my editing room, maybe I would edit one part of one image out, or, so she felt that had more of the rehearsal feel behind it and the less performative and more like, well, she just left the camera on, so it's on. And we made one camera more Auschwitz, Poland driven, and one camera more Cedar Point and family driven. And then towards the end, I start to work with both cameras more because the stories are all kind of bleeding together towards the end, was our rationale.
Dina, I wondered whether or not you'd ever done a one-woman show or one-person show before, and if not, how different, and I imagine very, but how different is that from a performance with more than one actor on the stage?
Well, I've never done one. Mom will tell you, I've been writing one for 10 years. But it has a bunch of 1 pages all over the place that haven't amounted.
Dina has been writing a stream of consciousness for years and years now, and she keeps threatening it'll be a one-woman show that she won't let us see.
Yeah, because
it'll be all about us.
It won't be all about you, but it will be a lot about you. Yeah. But so the thing is, it's hard because when you're on stage with someone, like in life, right? If someone says something to you, you react, right? You react in the moment instantaneously. When you're on stage with someone, it's the same thing. If someone yells at me, or if someone cries with me, or if someone, I'm going to have a reaction, and there's a partnership going. When it's just you, there's no one to talk to. So I thought, man, if this stinks, we really can't be like, that other guy was bad. It's all on me. And B, you just have to be, I had to be really specific with who was in the camera. Like, at what point am I talking to my dad? At what point am I talking to Mark? At what point am I talking to Orly? At what point am I talking to a best friend? Because you don't, so it's really hard. But I will say it taught me a heck of a lot about how to write and work on a one-person show. So maybe the stream of consciousness, Mom, will maybe it'll, I don't know, you still can't see it, but maybe it'll start to, get a little closer than it's been going since I graduated college.
So Ashara asks if she may ask a question. So go ahead. Wait.
You're muted.
Yeah, you need to unmute. You need to unmute.
You're muted.
Thank you. I didn't realize it was muted. Thank you. Ann Hirsch here. Sorry. Dina, we loved you in this. You're terrific. I have two questions. One, for that long a time on stage, you have all of these cues you're given by the other actors, except in this case. Was that wackadoodle? How did you manage that? Oh, I'm sorry. We're sorry. Stan and I are late because we couldn't get on. Sorry.
No, I just had to imagine, and kind of, I kept thinking what comes next, in the sense of how does this previous, since I don't have a partner and actor saying something to me, how does this previous section inform the next section? And maybe that would help inform my, acting, people think it's just, you get up there and you just do it. And it's true, you do have to just do it, but it's very calculated. Like, if you saw my script, it's arrows, and it's this word, and it's that word, and it's circled, and it's, so it was just taking the moments before and saying, what about this story makes me want to tell? What about talking about this part makes me need to say, my brother's getting married and I'm freaking out about it. And then what about that takes me to, my mother's horrified at people in her house with, so that was more my partner. In this case, the words, not the person, if that makes, Yeah,
absolutely makes sense. Thank you. And the other thing I'm just learning is when you were clicking on those images, there were really images. We didn't know. It must be, our computer, or maybe I'm getting glaucoma. But
no, you're right. It worked.
It worked because our eyes were on you anyway, and we don't need to see a picture of some guy with a dog, whatever it is, because we were looking at you. But it's so funny that we just thought that was a choice the director made.
It is.
Actually click, and there was nothing there. That's what it was.
You're right. Yes, it was a choice of the director to click. The only part where you should see anything is the very end where you see Jeff Kirschenbaum. That's the only.
Okay.
So yes, that was a choice of the director.
Good. Okay.
So that you pay attention more to the words and the story and not the images.
And that for me, that worked very well. And I hope you liked it too. I like the way that was.
I will definitely let her know, because she's going to be thrilled to hear that.
Okay. Thank you.
So Leslie Gleaner is asking, at what point was it decided to use your dad's picture at the end, or would it always be the image of the actor's father?
No, so that didn't happen in the script, that we focus in on an image of her father. We had just talked about, because remember, in the way that the playwright performed it, it was just colors. So even that last slide is just a color. But in our version, because we use these blurry images, my director said, what do you think about using a picture of your dad? And I was like, oh my God, he's gonna cry. And then, so then I had to text Mom and was like, I need every picture from the 80s and 90s where dad looks kind of candid and he's in a suit. And she sent me a bunch of pictures, and then I sent them all to the director, and she's like, oh, I like the one he's candid and talking in the microphone. And I told Mom about it. And I said, don't tell Dad. And then Mom called me one day and was like, is it going to be too sad? Is he going to get really emotional? I was like, I don't think it's sad. I think it's touching. And so that was just a choice that we made together because we had those blurry images. That wouldn't it be amazing that right as I have this realization of I'm putting my hand on my father's life, and then right as I cross the slide, it comes into focus. And so that was something that we timed out, that the second I crossed it is when it comes into focus, and then I turn off the camera. So yeah,
Felt like a wow moment. So.
Good. I hoped it would be, because when we were taping it, I was like, and they were like, okay, that works.
Now, Dina, I'll say, when the first slide, I thought it was out of focus. When you switched to the second slide, I realized that was the whole purpose. You were bringing those slides into focus with your words. And I thought you did an excellent job of it.
Thanks. Thank you. You've been around since the JCC time, so there you go.
I have a question.
Oh yes, Jeffrey Kirschenbaum.
Did your visit when you went to March of the Living, did your experience there affect the way you responded to those parts of the Holocaust when you did this show? Did you look back at that? Did you have to go back to that? Because you were talking about the hair and the glasses, and then you mentioned, I think, something about your father. Was there something there of your father? Did you have to relate to anything to feel that emotion?
I mean, I think, when you go, like anyone who's traveled to the concentration camps, and especially when you go what was I, 17 when I went? I think senior in high school. Yeah, I was a senior in high school. Was I junior? I don't know. You're muted, Mom.
You might have been a junior, honey. I don't remember.
Well, 16, 17, I mean, those images are kind of burned into your brain, right? For lack of I don't like saying that, but so there were things about the gas chambers that I really remember. There are things, I remember seeing something at Majdanek that like really upset me. And I also remembered thinking, what if I don't cry at all? Like, what if I go to Auschwitz and Birkenau and I don't cry? Like, then I'm a horrible person. And so it's interesting how she says, I was so afraid I wouldn't feel anything here. Mm-hmm. So that I really identified with. And then I think there is a degree of like, if I close my eyes right now, I can remember what the gas chambers and the crematoriums look like. But I don't think it's helpful to dwell in them. I think it's helpful to let them exist, mm-hmm. and then to also let the feeling of being in them like wash over you and speak from that place. But I'm more identified with the fear, the genuine fear of going to a place like going to the concentration camps and just being so stunned or so shocked that you don't have any feeling. But I did think, when she says the line, like, you're in Auschwitz and you have to imagine what happened here because it looks like a college campus. And then you go to Birkenau and it looks really devastating. I do remember doing the walk from Auschwitz to Birkenau and thinking it was so pretty at Auschwitz. I know that's horrible to say, but it was like sunny the day we were there. And then walking to Birkenau, and Birkenau was so scary looking that I was like, ooh, So I think it exists in me. I don't think I have to call it up. I think it's just there. Mm-hmm. Like any memory that we have, it's just there in your Rolodex,
You have any other questions for Dina? This is your opportunity.
I have a question.
Sure.
So if it wasn't for the the pandemic times, and I assume you would have had a run of shows where you did this multiple times, and not just, I don't know how many times how you recorded it, but it played like it was a recording of one performance. And I was wondering, maybe do you miss out on not getting a chance to play it like you would if you were doing 3 or 5 or 10 or 30 shows or whatever the run is, and each time, and you have to keep digging deeper or
finding new things.
Finding new things, exactly.
I think listen, in this year when 99.9% of my friends are unemployed and without health insurance anymore and like surviving on purely their unemployment benefits. Of course I miss the audience. Oh my gosh. Of course I miss the run. Of course I miss, we spent 3 weeks in a theater. We shot it one day and everyone went home. And I got home and I said to Mark, like, did that even happen? I don't even know if that happened. But all that is to say, I got to act this year. And so that in this year is like the biggest, hugest gift. And to be honest, if they were doing a regular season, I don't know that they would have been doing 2.5-minute ride, like a one-woman show from the 90s. I think they were going to do Fun Home by Lisa Crone last year, and they couldn't. And I think they wanted to still feature Lisa because they love her as a writer. And so I think the pandemic gave me this production in a way. But of course, oh my God, I mean, oh gosh, I can't wait to be in a theater with people again. But that being said, I am eternally grateful to the theater for the opportunity and to my director for thinking of me.
Dina, do you
My follow-up, I'm sorry.
I think I do the same follow-up, Stan. Do you see this is there a possibility of seeing this show go once COVID is all lifted? Broadway's talking about September of doing this play for an ongoing season?
Possibly. I don't really know. I don't think it would be in their season next season, certainly. But my director and I are talking about, listen, like theaters are going to start reopening, right? But it's going to be a while until there's like big shows with big casts and big, it's going to take a bit to get everyone back there, and to things as big as they are. So my director's like, listen, we have a show that we could pretty much lift up and place anywhere. So maybe we start calling theaters and saying, hey, as you're coming back from the pandemic, we have you have one cast, you can save a ton of money because no theaters have money right now. And, we can essentially drop it in your space and know how to do it. So we've talked about that, but I really don't know. I genuinely have no idea.
So again, what I was saying is on the follow-up, question to this line is how did you stage it differently and did you approach it differently as a recorded virtual performance compared to performing a live show?
Well, the whole beginning, which is you're watching me set up the theater. That's not in the script. So how she starts the play is, these are my grandparents, my father's parents. But my director said, what about if we see for 5 minutes, you renting this theatrical space and you're setting it up, you're putting the cameras up, you're doing this, so that we get a sense that you are making this videotape. You've been working on this videotape for your father. So that was the first thing we did because we didn't have an audience. And then that was pretty much, in terms of the filming of it, it was just, hey, Dina, you took one too many steps to the left and now you're out of camera frame. So they had to sort of give me if I was there with you, I'd be all over the stage, but I can't be. I can be in one little box so that they can see me. That was just the logistical stuff. But yeah, that was pretty much.
In terms of emoting, did you feel like other cameras, like in movie acting versus stage acting, or water or something? Did you?
I mean, I have a very expressive face, as I've been told by every director who's ever worked with me. So there were a couple times when my director was like, hey, you can just talk. Like, you're giving a lot of face. And maybe this time just talk because we're actually getting it. Like the camera, everyone says, the camera doesn't lie. If you're faking something, a camera sees it much better than when someone's in the nosebleeds, and they're like, what's her face doing? But when a camera's there, you just have to kind of talk and hope it comes through. Pretty much.
You did a really good job.
Thank you. Thanks so much. I'm so grateful that that you're watching. That's so great. It's awesome.
Well, thank you very much,